closely, because this story might feel uncomfortably familiar. Somewhere in your life, there's a pair of old shoes you can't throw away, not because they're useful, but because they remember who you used to be. This is a story about love, loss, and becoming someone stronger without realizing it. If you're in the USA or the UK and you've ever loved deeply, stayed too long, or walked away too late, this is for you. Subscribe now, because stories like this don't just entertain, they heal, and you won't want to miss the next one. She kept the shoes in a box beneath her bed long after the soles had thinned and the leather had softened into something fragile, long after the laces had frayed and the shape no longer matched the woman she had become, because those shoes had walked her through every version of love she had ever known. And on the morning the music video begins, she is sitting on the edge of her bed holding them as if they are capable of speaking back to her, remembering the first time she wore them when love felt like a promise instead of a risk, when she believed affection was something you earned by being agreeable, smaller, quieter, and easier to keep, back when she thought heartbreak was something that happened to other people, not something that could live inside your chest like a second pulse. And she remembers how she bought the shoes before her first real relationship, how they were stiff and new and slightly painful, rubbing blisters into her heels the same way that first love rubbed against her boundaries, teaching her that discomfort was normal if it meant staying close to someone else. And she stayed, she always stayed, through arguments that ended in silence, through apologies that never quite sounded like accountability, through the slow erosion of her voice until she learned to measure her words the way she measured her steps, careful not to stumble, careful not to upset the balance. And the shoes wore down as she did, molding themselves to her feet while she molded herself to someone else's expectations. And when that love finally ended, not in an explosion but in a quiet agreement that neither of them was truly happy, she walked home alone in those same shoes, noticing for the first time how uneven the ground felt, how much effort it took to keep moving forward. And she didn't throw them away then either, because they had survived something with her, and survival felt like a reason to hold on. The second love came when she believed she was wiser, stronger, less willing to compromise, and yet she wore the same shoes again, telling herself they were comfortable, familiar, broken in, not realizing that comfort can sometimes be another word for fear of change. And this love was passionate, intense, full of late-night confessions and promises spoken too quickly. And she mistook urgency for depth, mistook being needed for being valued. And the shoes carried her through city streets and rainy nights, through moments where she felt chosen and moments where she felt invisible. And each time she almost left, she remembered how much she had already invested, how far she had already walked. And the shoes, now visibly worn, seemed to whisper that quitting would make all that walking meaningless. So she stayed again, until staying felt heavier than leaving, until one night she stood alone at a bus stop, rain soaking through the cracked leather, realizing that love should not feel like waiting in the cold hoping someone will show up. And when she finally walked away from that relationship, she noticed the pain in her feet more sharply than before, because growth, unlike comfort, demands awareness. Time passed, seasons changed, and the woman changed too, slowly, unevenly, sometimes backwards, sometimes forward in sudden leaps. And the shoes stayed under the bed as she learned how to be alone, how to fill silence with her own thoughts without judging them, how to sit with loneliness without immediately trying to escape it. And she dated less, listened more, and for the first time, she began to ask herself questions she had always avoided, like why she equated love with endurance, why she believed being chosen meant being worthy, why she feared abandonment more than self-betrayal. And when the third love arrived, it surprised her not because it was dramatic but because it was calm, because it did not ask her to shrink or perform or prove. And she hesitated, standing in front of her closet, reaching instinctively for the old shoes before stopping, noticing how they no longer matched her reflection, how they belonged to someone who had learned lessons she no longer needed to repeat. And she chose different shoes that day, ones that fit properly, ones that supported her instead of wearing her down. And in this love, she learned that growth does not erase the past but reframes it, that all the walking she had done before was not wasted but necessary, that every blister taught her where her limits were, that every uneven step taught her how to balance herself without leaning too hard on someone else. And when she finally opened the box beneath her bed, holding the old shoes one last time, she didn't feel sadness or regret, only gratitude, because they had carried her until she learned how to carry herself. And as the music swells in the final moments of the video, she places the shoes back in the box, not to hide them but to honor them, closing the lid gently, standing up straighter than she ever had before, and walking forward barefoot for a moment, feeling the ground beneath her fully, choosing to move ahead not because she is afraid of being alone, but because she finally understands that love is not about how much pain you can endure, it is about how much truth you are willing to live, and that realization, quiet and powerful, is what emotional growth truly sounds like when love stops hurting and starts feeling like home.